We are back with special guest, my brother from another mother, Justin Tinsley. This is Ball Up Top. We are going to call this episode, I think, Lakers, Fakers, Quakers, Wolves in 5. I think that's what we're going to call this one. Justin Tinsley, since I've known you, you have been the biggest LeBron fan, biggest LeBron sort of defender that I know. Lakers down in 5. Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start here talking about this? Do you want to give it a little coat for LeBron? Do we want to bash Luka? Do we want to say Nico was right? Where do we want to go here? Justice for Nico hashtag? Like where are you here?
Here's the thing, Nico may be right, but I still don't want to be Nico right now. You know what I mean? Or anytime moving forward. But honestly, D, I'll be perfectly honest with you, man. I'm kind of glad this series is over.
Okay.
These were we saw, honestly, from game one, I know the Lakers won game 2, right? But we saw from game 1, the Wolves were the better team. Obviously, they came into the playoffs, one of the hottest teams in the league, right? And this was a team that just picked on all the Lakers' insecurities as a roster. You know, they were deeper from a bench. They were deeper from the perspective of, we knew the Lakers not having a consistent big man was going to come back to haunt them. So for anything that was great about the Lakers, obviously Luka and LeBron, especially at times when they were gelling together, the ascension of Austin Reeves, who did not show up in this series. I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. The Wolves were probably the worst team for the Lakers to face in the first round because they did everything well that the Lakers couldn't do well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, but also I think that some of this we got to talk about JJ Redick. Like, we got to talk about the JJ Redick of all this. I want to talk about the Wolves and how great they are and what their prospects are going forward, but there's plenty of time for that. Right now, I think we're gonna bash JJ Redick for a little bit because last week we were talking about the Lakers. I mentioned this for a while, that my concern with JJ Redick is that he was coaching regular season like the playoffs, and I did not think he could go to another level, right? It's one thing to go out in a regular season game against the Nuggets, say we're going to front Jokic, we're going to double him, or go against the Wolves and say we're going to double Ant and have a plan for a regular season game.
Yeah.
In the series, when you have to make adjustments, JJ Redick seemed to just run out of ideas, starting with playing everybody, playing his 5 starters the entire second half, which people have given him they've given him a lot of trouble for, but I think they're not been as judgmental as they should. There is no excuse for not being able to spell. You're up 10. You have to be able to spell LeBron 1 minute before the end of the quarter, 1 minute after. Luka comes out for a couple minutes. Like, you're worried about losing the lead. You're going to lose the lead, but everybody's tired anyway. Like, he just sort of ran out of ideas there, culminating, I think, in Maxi Kleber minutes in the fourth quarter. I don't know what the plan was to have Maxi Kleber play in this game.
Dude, when I saw Maxi Kleber come off the bench in that game, I was like, oh, he was part of that trade.
Yeah.
Because he had been injured for most of the season, at least most of the season since that trade. But yeah, man, I remember I sat on Around the Horn I think this was last week, so this was like after game 1. And I was like, yeah, there were 2 people in the playoffs who looked shell-shocked when it came to like, oh, this is what postseason basketball is about. One was Jalen Green, which I still stand by, even with the Rockets Game 5 victory. He still did not have a monster game in that.
Yeah.
I said it was him, which is to be expected. He's like 22, 23 years old. The other was JJ Redick. He really looked shell-shocked in the sense of like, oh, wow, coaching in the playoffs is a lot different. And D, before we got on here, I crunched some numbers. For you, my brother.
Okay.
In 5 games, do you know what the bench differential in points was?
It had to have been like 60 points or something like that.
My brother, it was 187 to 55, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 games, games 4 and 5, I'm looking at it right now, it was 47 to 10. 47.
Yeah.
You're not going to win many regular season games where you're getting outscored like that, and you damn sure ain't going to win many postseason games when you're like that. Like you said, LeBron, who had 2, honestly, statistically wise at least, he had 2 really good games in Minnesota. Like game 3, I believe he had 38. And I remember telling somebody, LeBron at 40 years old, you cannot waste a 38-point game.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't, like, this is not LeBron in Miami or even LeBron when he first went back to Cleveland. Like, as you said, you have to buy LeBron minutes. You got to buy Luka minutes. And I don't know whether he didn't trust the bench, whether the bench was that bad, or whether the bench just shrank in itself in the playoffs because they knew their coach didn't believe in him. But his quote last night after the game is, "I have to be a lot better." And I think he can be. I think he would be a lot better because the dude is a basketball savant. But he got. I don't want to. He one got significantly out coached, but you can tell for a guy who played in a lot of playoff games as a player, he was not ready for the intensity that came with being a head coach in the playoffs.
Yeah, he just didn't have. So, I mean, at the beginning of this game, it felt over because Tinsley, I'm not a point guard. I don't dribble the ball up the court. But if you double team me in the way that they double teamed Anthony Edwards, and all you have to do is get the ball to a butt naked, wide open Dante DiVincenzo or Julius Randle, whoever they were doubling off of, and you have an open floor. Like, they were carving this Lakers team up.
Yeah.
With those, like, those are rudimentary double teams with no back end rotations, no anything. Everybody just seemed able to get to whatever they want. And you did not even have a good Anthony Edwards game. They were, I think, 7 for 47 from three. He was 0 for 11. DiVincenzo couldn't hit a three. Like, to have that sort of game and to have your defense carved up with really embarrassing level of double teams there. I mean, here's the thing. When you're going to go small, right?
Yeah.
When you want to go small, one of the things that has to work when you go small is everybody has to play well. That's what makes a small ball rotation work. Everybody has to play well, and you have to be able to switch. You sort of defeat the purpose when you have to double Ant and you have nobody to guard the rim. The Warriors, if you look at them, they are sort of the 5-out, small ball sort of blueprint when you look at 2015, 2016 with Steph and Iguodala and all that stuff. They fell apart in large part because Harrison Barnes was not playing well, right? Like all five people had to be playing well. So once that falls apart, you have to figure something else out with your lineup. You can't be beholden to a lineup where Rui is, even though he was playing well, is a little inconsistent, where you have, guys who are just not going to punish you on all ends. And then you got to think about the Jackson Hayes thing. Like Jackson Hayes ain't Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but once you get to the Maxi Kleber minutes, you got to throw him out there because we have not mentioned Rudy Gobert yet. And he is a catalyst. I mean, on what he did on Game 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the rebounds looked like Will Chamberlain out there. But throughout the series, the Lakers were never able to properly punish Rudy Gobert. Like, we have seen a lot of the highlights, and every time Luka scored on Rudy Gobert, the highlights said Luka's cooking him. But if you watch the games, LeBron couldn't get past Rudy Gobert. Luka couldn't get past this dude, and once you're unable to do that and make the Wolves make a decision, your series is doomed.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at what's plagued the Lakers over the last couple of postseasons, LeBron is 2-12 in his last 14 playoff games, which sounds like a stat that doesn't even seem real.
Luka's 2-8, right?
Luka's 2-8. And what's one thing that's really haunted the Lakers in these playoffs? They can't stop the big men that has to stop. First, it was Joker in Denver. Obviously, AD was having a ton of problems with Joker in Denver, and now it's Rudy Gobert. And look, I understand Rudy Gobert is the butt of a lot of jokes. People think he's one thing or another, but like, the dude understands who he is at all times. Some games he's going to give you 6 points and maybe 12 rebounds and 2 blocks, and he's going to impact the game in a significant way. But last night, as you said, the man looked like Rudy Chamberlain, Olajuwon. Honestly, he was getting everything that he wanted, and that's a testament to what the Lakers don't have. The fact that you said, like you said, you threw Kleber out there and not Jackson Hayes, and I understand that he played himself out of the starting lineup, but he can't be any worse than Maxi Kleber. He's a guy that can attack the rim on offense. Luka needs that lob threat, and he's the best lob threat that they have right now, and they just excommunicated him from the lineup again. That goes back to coaching, D. There was really no real adjustments moving forward. This was like, oh, the Lakers are going to make a run at it in the third quarter, but eventually they're going to run out of gas. In a lot of ways, man, D, the Timberwolves they kind of played their own like little rope-a-dope. It was like, all right, cool, they're going to make this run in the third, but as great as LeBron is, he's still 40. Luka, as great as he is, he really doesn't play any defense. We're just going to wait till these guys gas themselves out, and we're going to be like sharks in the water when we smell blood. It was literally probably the same game from games 3, 4, and 5. It was the same blueprint night in and night out. And that's why I said I'm glad that this series is over, because the better team won. And the Lakers go into next season with, with a lot of questions, but I think they have the potential to make some really significant moves in the postseason. But as of right now, they were not the better team. They got out. Their bench got drastically outplayed. They got drastically outcoached. And anytime you're playing a 40-year-old man 42 plus minutes a night in consecutive playoff games, it's not going to end well for you. I don't care how physically fit he is.
Speaking of the offseason, you know what time of year it is, Tinsley. There is smoke coming out of the crypto arena, the ceiling of the crypto arena. Let everybody know that the season has started. We are at the beginning or the end of last season, but the beginning of the LeBron James passive aggressiveness calendar time.
Hey.
The LeBron James passive aggressiveness calendar. The season has started. It started after Game 5. They asked LeBron what he needed. He said, "Hey, we needed a big man." And Davis said, "Need a big man." They got him up out of here. It is time for LeBron. For those who do not know, the calendar does not miss. We start with an offseason of disappointment, right? Where LeBron James starts talking about what the team needs, what the team didn't do, what they messed up. Maybe throws a coach under the bus. We'll see if that happens with JJ Redick, because everybody thinks that LeBron brought JJ Redick on, but maybe LeBron will say, Steve Nash is the best podcast co-host I've ever had. We don't know. There's always another level of passive aggressiveness that can be waited. Then we have off-season uncertainty. LeBron can opt in. I'm assuming he's gonna opt in. Maybe there's a wait. Maybe he puts out a couple statements, a couple comments, says, "Hey, maybe going back to Cleveland wouldn't be so bad. Would definitely love to play with Steph." Puts up a Instagram post. Steph goes crazy against the Wolves. Game 3, scores 50. LeBron goes, "Wow, what a great teammate." You never know what's going to happen. LeBron, we got the passive aggressiveness, right? The Lakers make a move, or whatever team he was on makes a move in the offseason. Everybody says, yes, they have made the final move. They're championship bound. Season starts to get a little rocky at the beginning. LeBron takes a little vacation, lets everybody fail without him. He comes back to the heart of passive aggressive this season, which is right around Christmas time, right around trade deadline time. He's talking about, other owners, other general managers, other teams, things he needs, throws a couple teammates under the bus. There's always the MLK blowout. They lose bad on MLK. Then it's really trade deadline time. We need to make some moves. Something's got to happen. We don't know what's going on. Maybe he pretends he doesn't know that his sidekicks get traded. And then you get another move. Everybody says it's time for LeBron. They make the move. They're going to win the championship now. Everybody's excited. LeBron's excited. He's back on board. I love my teammates. Never doubted them. Would have never traded any of these guys for the world, even though before the trade deadline he was talking about trading about half of them. You get to the playoffs, a little bit of disappointment. Press conference, and we're back in the calendar again. It is the season premiere of the LeBron James passive aggressiveness calendar. Tinsley, welcome to the rodeo.
Well, see, here's the thing, D. We've been on a book writing journey for a long time together, right? Our books came out roughly the same time in 2022, and we've often been looking for what is the next topic that we're going to write on. I'm struggling to think of that, but I think you just landed on your next topic. The LeBron James passive aggressive calendar.
I'm gonna start making calendars.
It could be a kid's book.
It's a kid's book. I'm gonna start making calendars and just sending out calendars for people so they can just mark the day and just know, hey, MLK Day, we're gonna do some community service. We're gonna go watch the "I Have a Dream" speech. We're gonna watch LeBron's team get blown out. He's gonna do a press conference that says, hey, maybe we could be better at point guard. Who knows who's out there? And then that's just part of the journey.
Key step, at least at this point in time of his career. You got to float the retirement possibilities out there. I don't know how much longer I have. I've seen LeBron say everything from I've got 1 to 2 years left, or I'm in shape enough to play 7 more years. Obviously, I know he's not playing 7 more, but that at least in elder LeBron years. Yeah, that's always a fun part of the calendar as well. They're like, I ain't gonna be here much longer.
That's all part of it. Put a little pressure on them. So this anything else in the Lakers you want to do before we give the Wolves a little bit of love?
Oh yeah, one more thing I have to say. Obviously, we talked about JJ. I mentioned the bench. We talked about LeBron. I gotta mention how Austin Reeves did not show up in
Yeah,
this series,
yeah,
and he even mentioned it himself after Game 5. He was like, "You can put this on me. I didn't make the plays we needed to win," and that is true. And this is not me just like wagging my finger at the guy, be like, trying to disrespect him. But you know, when we were going into the playoffs, a lot of the talk around the Lakers was like, "Oh snap, they might have stumbled into their next big three." Austin Reeves has assumed that role, and he was playing. I mean, he averaged what 26 and 5 this year. So I
mm.
mean, if that's the third guy in your big three, those are big numbers. Those are good numbers to put up. So there was a lot of expectations and on him moving into the play, going into the playoffs, and he just did not show up. And it really felt like the Lakers were hooping in Timberland boots for most of the
Yeah.
series. They were a step too. They were like 2 steps too slow, and Austin Reeves never regained the form that he had, especially in the second half of the season. So I'd be remiss not to mention him. But we can definitely move on to the Wolves if you
Yeah,
want to.
Reeves just could not punish any big that was on him. The Wolves are able to focus in on Luka. LeBron just is not that at that point. When you had a couple times where the Wolves were in the penalty, and you would think that this is the moment where LeBron just gets in the foul line, and he got in the foul, got I think shot 15, 17 free throws, something like that in Game 4. He just
Hmm.
could not punish them in the way that made defenses confounded in the way that it used to be. And Austin Reeves was supposed to do that, and he just couldn't get it done. Defensively, he was also kind of a mess, not able to do much there. So yeah, there's a lot of blame to go around. Timberwolves though,
Yep.
Anthony Edwards. We got to start here with Anthony Edwards, who has now knocked out Kevin Durant, Jokic, LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and maybe on the way to knocking out Stephen Curry and Jimmy
They're
Butler.
getting stuff in the second round, dog.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
letting that Game 5 from the Rockets fool me. Like the Warriors will win Game 6, and we will finally get that stuff versus, the Anthony Edwards Olympic teammate revenge tour for whatever
Right.
reason.
Yes,
But
the
yeah,
Olympic team revenge tour. Uh, the Warriors, who were one draft pick away from getting them, they did not. We don't need to go into that draft. But I mean, the Wolves. I mean, so many people we know about Gobert stepping up, and he was night and day defensively on the perimeter than he was before. They were not. Again, the Lakers were not able to keep him off the floor in Game 5, which is surprising. But we also got to talk about the guy who, um, has first half of the season was under so
yeah,
much scrutiny,
yeah,
came
yeah,
back from an injury, started passing the ball, started moving well, and that's Julius Randle. This
yeah,
guy went toe to toe with LeBron James, was physical with him. Nobody could stop him at every point in Game 5. When the Lakers got this thing down to 2, got it down to 4, it was Julius Randle who was getting to the paint and making the shots and getting the big rebounds and defending. I mean, Julius Randle deserves all the between this and the Knicks Pistons series. I'm getting tired of I don't want any more New York people calling me on my damn phone gloating. But we got to give. We're going to talk about the Wolves a lot, but we got to give the Wolves, especially the way that the season started. They trade
yeah,
Karl Anthony Towns. We're thinking that this may be a disaster trade for the Wolves.
yeah.
They may go further in the playoffs than the Knicks do. I mean, the Knicks are not coming out the second round. The Wolves, I think that it is a coin flip for them in Golden State, I think.
Yeah.
And we can get into that series later. But quick few thoughts on the Timberwolves.
Obviously, dude, you're very familiar with my 2-1-1 theory.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think the Wolves came mighty close. Obviously, Ant gave him the 2 games that he did. Uh, Game 5 was absolutely the Rudy Chamberlain game.
yeah,
And that was not a Freudian slip on my part.
right.
So that first one in the 2-1-1 theory, right? That always goes to your second best player. And in theory, that's supposed to be Julius Randle on this team, right? So I don't know if he necessarily had a game all to himself, like the Julius Randle game, but those last 4 games of the series, basically games 2 through 5, he was an unstoppable force on that court, on both ends. Like you said, points, rebounds, physicality with LeBron, switching on defense. Like Julius Randle was doing everything that the Timberwolves needed him to do and wanted him to do when they made that trade. Because like you said, bro, when the Karl Anthony Towns trade initially went down, I was like, I don't know if Minnesota got better. If
Yeah,
anything, I think they may have gotten worse because I was on the fence how I felt about Julius Randle. And for the most part in the season, I was kind of justified in that. But he really started turned the corner, I guess you could say, maybe around late February, early March, and it just really translated into a very strong start to his postseason. So, like, you got to give credit where credit is due, and Julius Randle is playing really good basketball, and if and when they get Golden State that next round, they're going to need him to basically be physical with the guys like Draymond or Jimmy Butler when he comes down low. So, like, he's a very integral part into this team, you know, for them maybe potentially, hopefully returning back to the Western Conference Finals.
All right, enough about the Wolves. I don't want to gas them up too much. They're playing one Wardell, Steph Curry in the next round, so not gonna talk about too much. But Tinsley, as you know, we end every episode of Ball Up Top with things I cannot stop thinking about. And there's been so much going on in the playoffs, but this is the one thing. It's not even playoff related. We're gonna just let it be one thing this week. One thing I cannot stop thinking about. What do you see when you see this clip?
ID. Now.
What?
Of course.
What the heck?
Oh.
No.
Ow! First take. What are y'all doing in first take? Not the Blicky. Not Stephen A. Blicky.
ID.
Let me see that again. Let me see that again. Look at why does the nurse have the he sees it.
Not the James Bond.
Stephen A. Wick.
Stephen A. Bond out this thing.
Stephen A. Smith and Wesson. What are we doing here?
Stephen A. Malzone.
He got the silencer on him. Come on.
Hold on, man.
Not letting Shakita speak in the hospital, Stephen A. What are you doing? Is this what my folks used to call these the stories? Stephen A's on the stories still? He's on the stories.
I need a 20-second. We ain't got to go to commercial for this one. What is this?
All right, everybody. It's been a good show. Ball up top. It's been great. We'll see you next week. We're going to talk more playoffs. Hopefully, we still have jobs. Catch you guys later.
Of course.
Blicky A. Smith.
Stephen A. Bond. Stephen A. Malzone. Look at the point. Ooh, the James Bond point.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness, dog. Like, I don't know what beer Stephen A. drinks or if he even drinks beer, but he is the real life Dos Equis, man.